Hi, I'm Trevor Lund from RevTrev.com, and today we are continuing our discussion with Joanna Penn. Joanna has just released a new book called Prophecy, and it's a action adventure fiction. I'm going to let you tell us about it. What is Prophecy?
Prophecy is the second in a series. It's called the Arcane series, and it's basically kind of kick-ass action-adventure thriller with religious story themes. So the prophecy of the title is the verse in Revelation about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and the fact that the pale horse will kill a quarter of the population of the world. So I love using kind of biblical stories or verses in as a jump-off for the story. So I have my heroine Morgan Sierra, who must basically stop the bad guy from getting his hands on the Devil's Bible, which is actually a real medieval artifact. Yeah. But in the book, it contains these curses that can basically transform and be that final horse of the apocalypse. So it's a kind of exciting. We go across different locations around the world. It's got theological aspects, psychology aspects. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Like with the Devil's Bible, how there are the missing pages on the back, and you took that and said, well, what were those missing pages, and kind of brought it through. I really enjoy that kind of writing. You take actual things and then try to describe them, how it could have came about. So.
And this is kind of what I love about writing thrillers, because the idea of a thriller is that it could actually happen. It's not so far-fetched, like it's not sci-fi or fantasy. It's like this could actually happen, and the Devil's Bible is real. All of the places in the book are real. The Sedlec Bone Church and the Palermo Crypt with the kind of mummies. All of those things are real. Paris catacombs, and yeah, with the Devil's Bible, I couldn't believe it when those missing pages were there. Because it was kind of like I couldn't search for it entirely because it's real, and so I wanted to weave that into the story in such a way that people would get really involved. And what's amazing also about this process is synchronicity, which is an idea that the psychologist Carl Jung came up with, which is when you start trying to link things, amazing things kind of happen, and stuff is true. So I was looking for some mystery, and then there it was, the missing pages. So yeah, that was really exciting.
So in this, how long is this series going to be? How many pages, or how many pages? How many books do you have planned? This is the second series.
Well,
is this one that keeps on going until it's done, or how is it going to go?
Well, basically what I'm doing is I'm kind of looking at really interesting stuff that interests me. So Pentecost was about, I made up that there are stones that came from Jesus's tomb, the risen Jesus's tomb, and then they're found in the present day, and that Morgan has to go and find them around the world, where the apostles' bodies are in these various tombs, which again is true. They really are in these various places. So that was one thing. I was really interested in the early church and how I could bring a mystery into the brilliant architecture of these various churches, because I love architecture and art and things. And then with Prophecy, it was kind of like the central idea came from the sacrifice of Isaac by Abraham. So that was the core, was that God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, and Abraham said yes and took him up. I'm sure people know the story. He's about to kill him, but he doesn't. God gives him another sacrifice. So I thought, well, let's take that further, and there's actually a whole load of research about this, about obedience to authority. So that's where that all came from. And the third book is going to be about the Ark of the Covenant. So it's called Exodus, and is looking in at the first of all where it could be, but also the psychological aspects around Sigmund Freud, because I have one degree in theology and one in psychology. So I
can tell by the writing. Yeah,
I like to blend the two. So Sigmund Freud wrote a book called Moses and Monotheism, and he was obviously Jewish. So I'm bringing in Freudian theory, the Moses out of Egypt, so the ancient Egyptian mythology, as well as the sort of the Ark of the Covenant and where it could be. So it could go on for a long time, because every time I'm like, wow, this is really fascinating stuff. There's so much in the Bible that I'm interested in pulling out these threads, and I'm not, obviously, you've read the books, I'm not reinventing the story itself. I'm using often just one verse and then writing a story around that.
Yeah. So where's the Ark of the Covenant? Because I have a few suggestions myself.
Well, you'll have to read Exodus, but there's I love the research. The research is so fast. So I've been reading all these books about the Ark of the Covenant. There's some really crazy people.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
It's just fantastic. So the research drives me really.
The best one I heard for craziness is that it's under the hill of Golgotha.
Yeah, with the blood that dripped down.
The mercy seat. It's like, dude, I don't need that for my faith, But
he won't be in the book.
Oh boy, that's fun. So when you're writing, how does that process work? Like you said, you kind of get. Do you get the thread first? Do you get the idea? Do you look for the mystery? Like what?
It's
I know it's different
hard.
every time. It's all the time. I know it's a hard.
Well, I think with let's take the prophecy. It was really I actually wrote my thesis at university on the psychology of fundamentalist religion in terms of obedience to an authority figure. So God told Abraham to do it, and God told the person who assassinated Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister, about 10 years ago, said to this young Jew, kill this man, and he did it. So my thought was, well, that's really interesting. How do people decide that God tell them to do it? And then from there, I found out. I also went to the Paris catacombs. So I love places. Places are critical to my books. You probably noticed. They go hopping around all these different places. So I needed resonance in my scenes. So the Sedlec Church is in the Czech Republic, and it's made all of bones. And I always knew that my final scene, was going to be in this bone church when, human skeletons everywhere. I mean, that's very resonant of spiritual things and death and, So I guess all of it comes together. And at the moment in plotting Exodus, I'm coming up with good locations and the story, but also I'm fascinated by what's in the Bible itself, because of course, who knows where it is? So I can make up quite a lot, but equally I have to use some of the aspects that are true.
Yeah. No, that's you got my interest on that one. That's.
But it's funny, I think back to some of the books that influenced me. I'm sure Frank Peretti. Who was a Christian writer. I liked some of those, those really over-the-top ones, the end times ones that those pair of writers did, Tim so-and-so, the Left Behind series. I like using aspects of religion that resonate in people's minds because they know something about it, and then I just kind of make something of that.
You said before that you know the beginning, you know the end, and you let the middle write itself. Right?
Yeah, well, what you've described is what they call a pantser, someone who writes by the seat of their pants. I'm more of a planner or a plotter, someone who plots before they write. So I will plot. So at the moment, I'm plotting the scenes and what will happen for Exodus. But what will happen as I'm writing the scenes is something will happen that I haven't planned for, and also I'll have to come back to research in the middle. So I come up with my framework. And then I start writing, and then as I write each scene, things will happen. But my characters, this is the other thing about designing what you want. I want to be someone who makes a good living from writing fiction. And I studied what those people are. And they write series. So you have to write a series. You have to write a series that people enjoy, where characters carry on. So my main character, Morgan Sierra, she's like a kick-ass woman, and she has a partner, Jake, and they work for this secret British agency that's under Trafalgar Square that investigates religious mysteries. So in that way, I've set up the future books. So the people who make money write a series and they keep their characters going. So I have to create something big enough to hold a series of books, which I think I have. And And then, yeah, basically over time. But my characters don't get out of control. Although last time, when I was writing Prophecy, a new character just arrived out of nowhere. And in the end, I took him out of Prophecy, but he will be going into Exodus. So, but for example, I also like to take my cues off TV. So I really like that show Bones. I know I said I don't watch much TV, but I do watch Bones, or I used to before she had a baby. But you know, the sexual tension between a male and a female character, I think, is really important in a book. Like, you know, the fact that they never actually get together, but there's tension always, is actually something that people like to read. So I don't write sex scenes, but there's a lot of tension.
Well, that's good. I'm excited to see how it goes, and I'll be watching you myself to see how the sales go and stuff like that, because that's really exciting. So, thank you so much for being on here. And
thanks ever so much for having me, Trevor.
oh, thank you so much for being here. Take care, and we'll be in touch. Okay.